remember the first time I met Jason. He was different from anyone I'd ever known. Charismatic, charming, and so sure of himself. The kind of man who walks into a room and commands attention without saying a word. I thought he was the answer to everything I'd been missing. A fresh start, excitement, passion, a life beyond the mundane. I had been married to Alex for 7 years at the time. Alex wasn't a bad guy. He was reliable, responsible, and stable. But somewhere along the way, the magic had faded. The spark that once ignited our relationship had turned into a flicker, a dull flame barely hanging on. Our routine had become predictable. Dinner at 7, the same conversations about work, the same quiet evenings watching TV. It was comfortable, but it wasn't fulfilling. I had grown restless. I kept telling myself that this was what I wanted. A family, a home, a partner I could rely on. But deep down, I felt trapped in a life that wasn't mine. I wanted more. I wanted excitement, adventure, and something that made me feel alive again. That's when Jason entered my life. We met at a work event. He was suave, confident, and everything Alex wasn't. He looked at me in a way that made me feel seen, like I was more than just a wife and mother. I'll admit I was flattered. At first, it was just innocent flirting, harmless banter during coffee breaks and meetings. But as the days went by, it became more. He made me feel special, like I was worth something beyond the ordinary. And when he promised me a life of luxury, adventure, and everything I had ever dreamed of, I was hooked. Jason told me that with him, I wouldn't have to settle. He could give me everything I had been longing for. Wealth, travel, excitement. He said he could offer me a life where I would never have to worry about anything again. It was the kind of life I had never even dared to imagine. He was a millionaire, after all. And I was just a woman stuck in a routine with a good man who didn't know how to make me feel wanted anymore. I don't know why I did it. I don't know what compelled me to throw away everything I had with Alex. Maybe it was the promise of something better. Maybe it was the thrill of feeling desired again. Or maybe it was the belief that if I didn't make this change now, I would always wonder what might have been. Whatever the reason, I made the decision to leave. I remember telling Alex. I thought he would fight for me, plead with me to stay, but he didn't. He just looked at me with those sad, tired eyes and asked, "Are you sure?" I wasn't sure, but I told him I was. I told him I needed something more. And just like that, I walked out of our home and into the unknown. I packed a bag, left behind everything I had known, and moved into Jason's lavish penthouse. The first few days were a whirlwind. I was swept up in the excitement, the luxury, and the attention. Jason was everything I had ever wanted. He took me on private jet trips, bought me designer clothes, and made me feel like I was the center of his universe. I felt alive again, in a way I hadn't in years. But as the days passed, something began to shift. The promises of adventure and excitement started to feel hollow. Jason was never there. He was always working, always meeting with business associates, always busy with something that seemed more important than me. I was left in his luxurious apartment, surrounded by things I didn't need, feeling emptier than I ever had in my life. I started to question my decision. Was this really what I wanted? Was a life of wealth and luxury worth it if it came at the cost of feeling truly seen and valued? Jason, for all his charm, wasn't the man I thought he was. He was selfish, distant, and his promises of a perfect life were beginning to feel like empty words. I tried to ignore it. I told myself I just needed to adjust, that it would all get better. But the loneliness started to eat at me. I wasn't living a life of excitement. I was living a life of isolation, with no real connection to the man I had chosen over my own family. Then came the argument. It wasn't a big one, but it was enough to open my eyes. Jason had promised to take me on a vacation to Paris. I had been looking forward to it for weeks, imagining how romantic it would be. But when the day came, he canceled. He told me he had a business meeting that couldn't be rescheduled. He didn't even apologize. He just shrugged it off, as if it was no big deal. That was when it hit me. I had traded a stable, imperfect life with Alex for a life that was glamorous on the outside but empty on the inside. I had left everything for a man who didn't care about me the way I thought he did. And now I was alone. Alone in a lavish apartment, surrounded by things, but without the one thing I had always wanted: love. I packed my bags again, determined to leave Jason behind and go back to Alex, to the life I had known. But when I tried to contact him, it was too late. Jason had already made it clear that he didn't want me. The apartment was empty when I returned. His things were gone. I had been replaced, just like that. And when I tried to reach out to Alex, he refused to talk to me. Now, here I am, alone. In a dingy motel room, far away from the life I had once known. I gave up everything for the promise of something better, and all I have to show for it is loneliness and regret. Jason is gone, and Alex doesn't want anything to do with me anymore. The life I had dreamed of, the life of excitement and passion, has turned out to be a hollow shell. I sit here, in this motel room, staring at the small flickering TV, wondering how I got here. I made a choice to leave behind everything I had known, to chase something better. But what I've learned is that sometimes, what you think you want isn't what you need. I thought wealth and luxury would bring me happiness. I thought the excitement of a new man would fill the emptiness inside me. But now, all I feel is emptiness and regret. I don't know where I go from here. Maybe I'll try to get back in touch with Alex, but I don't know if he'll ever forgive me. Maybe I'll stay here, in this motel room, and try to piece my life back together. But for now, I'm stuck in this moment, alone, broke, and unsure of how I ended up here. Maybe one day I'll learn to forgive myself for the choices I made. But right now, all I can do is sit here, in the silence, and try to figure out what comes next.